Hello and welcome back to another episode of our draft series. This will probably be the last time you see us in both these shirts. We're finishing our recording marathon here. But we're going to talk about Quinn Ewers, who is probably one of the more well-known prospects in this class. This guy that was a five-star, reclassified up, went to Ohio State, was one of the first guys to have a lot of NIL publicity around him. CJ Stroud ended up winning that job clearly. Ewers didn't see much opportunity, goes to Texas. Plays there for a few years and had a pretty good career at Texas. Had a lot of team success there, making the college football playoff 2 years in a row. 2 years ago, when it meant something to make the playoff, they made the playoff and lost in the semifinals. And then this past year, at least put up a fight against Ohio State in a competitive game after having a miracle win against Arizona State. Ewers is a very interesting guy because this guy was I believe he is one of the only players ever on 24/7 to have a 1.0 rating, which is most of the time you'll see the top players have a .9998 or a .9997. And they had him as one of the best prospects they've ever evaluated. There was a ton of hype around this guy coming out of high school. And I think his Texas performance, you see why, but you also are left asking for more. So, John, thanks for joining today. As we get into the Ewers talk, how would you just describe him as a player before we start to pick apart some of the specific pieces?
Try not to get too much into some of the stuff later. I do think that a lot of it was his background as being a very hyped recruit. I think that Texas had plenty of success under him. For me, I think a lot of that might have been Steve Sarkisian being kind of a wizard. But, I can't discount, how many games they won and their offensive numbers the last couple of years. So clearly he was able to operate their offense. I'm trying to be nice. That is about as nice as I will probably be on this one. And I'm probably going to go a little bit harsher than you will. But
no, one thing I do think that
what I think about him.
One thing I think you mentioned, though, is this. I think the biggest thing you talk about with what Ewers did in his college career is he took Texas from being a program that we were all asking for years when they're finally going to figure it out, and gave them enough stability and competency at the quarterback position where they were able to take that step now. And I think by the end of his time at Texas, it was weird because you were kind of I kind of would rather watch Arch Manning play right now, but he's probably, I think he's earned the right to finish things out, and he played well enough where I don't know that Arch would have given them much better of a chance to win last year. But you're still kind of hoping I don't think this is the level that will win us a national championship, but it gets us back to where Texas needed to be in terms of, a year in and year out successful program.
Being competitive.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's where you see the positives. It also seems like he's a guy that has matured a lot since he has been in college, which is not surprising because he was in college a year earlier than he should have been. Coming out of high school, he was one of the most hyped recruits of all time. It's not surprising that guy took a little bit of time to figure it out. But there were a lot of reports about him starting to take care of his body more as he went on in his time at Texas, things like that are more positive indicators for him as he goes toward the NFL. Okay. Ewers is more of a traditional size. He's 6'2", 214, very, very typical guy that you would look at in terms of NFL size. We can start with the physical traits with him, which is very funny because I have almost no notes on his athleticism and physical traits from watching him. It's just kind of there. He's not, I don't think he's a super physical player. I don't think he's a very quick player. I don't think he's a fast player, but he's not terrible at any of those things either. He's not a statue in the pocket. Overall, he is definitely more of a lumbering runner than he is a smooth runner, but it's not a complete non-factor in his game either. Is there any more clarity, John, that you have in terms of the athleticism, because I think it's kind of just like a you shrug your shoulders and say like it's not really going to be a big part of his game, but it's also not going to be the thing that prevents him from having any NFL success.
Yeah, I said that when the pocket breaks and he steps up, he can pick up a few yards. He can get north and south and pick up a few yards. He's got a big enough frame that he can at least kind of push the pocket a little bit. I thought that his I thought as an athlete he was a little bit just on the slower end at
Yeah.
pretty much everything, including like moving in the pocket. Like I thought that he was really slow to react to rushers getting in his face. So sometimes it's like he'd have a rusher on top of him and then he'd realize, "Oh, I need to like move and get out of this guy's way." And then by the time he's trying to do that, he's getting sacked. And I was like he just didn't see it quick enough.
Yeah.
And I will talk about that some more because I think that that translates to some other parts of his game.
Yeah, I
But
don't want to get into the footwork yet because that's probably its own
yeah,
discussion.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree. I do think you brought up the thing I think you see that he does best, which is like there will be times where he's kind of still scanning the field trying to make a play, and then he just decisively says, "I'm going to tuck the ball and run. I'm going to pick up five. I'm going to dive. I'm going to get down. I'm not going to get hit. I'm just going to pick up what's there and move on." I actually think that he does a very good job of that for his level of athleticism. But it's never something you're going to like write home about and be like, this is a like big positive
yeah.
for Ewers. Overall, it's just kind of like an okay athlete, like a guy that has some fluidity to his game as like a thrower and things like that, but it's not anything special. Okay, now typically we hit the throwing early. I think I actually want to save that for last. Now let's talk about the processing next, and then we'll finish with some of the more specific throwing stuff. This is another piece where it's like you really have to remember what offense you're watching and like
Yeah.
that this is Sark calling plays and that 2 years ago it was A.D. Mitchell, it was Xavier Worthy, it was Jatavian Sanders. He played with Bijan Robinson. Like we're talking about so many good players this year. You've got a great pass catching running back in Jaden Blue, even though a lot of their top backs were hurt this year and out for the year. Gunnar Helms, a great tight end. You've got receivers that were still talented players, albeit maybe not reaching the same heights as last year's group with like Worthy being a first round pick. Like there's legit talent still in this Texas wide receiver room and Golden might end up getting drafted higher than any of these guys, even though Isaiah Bond had
Gold.
kind of had a disappointing year. So that overall, a lot of talent around him. And I think he is another guy, like we just talked about this with Gabriel. The over trusting of the offense is like, it's here. It's big time with Ewers where like if Sark does not provide the answers, it gets ugly pretty quick. And that's something that concerns me with him because again, like the athleticism is not to the level where you could throw this guy out there and know that he's going to figure it out.
He's not going to be a creator when things break down, and he doesn't really have the athleticism to tell you that he'd ever do that. He's been pretty experienced, so like he kind of is who he is at this point.
I want to stop there for a second because I think that's actually a very interesting point in this conversation. He's one of the youngest guys in the draft, yet has played a ton of like he was born in 2003, yeah. So that to me is like what you just hit on right there is to me like the biggest questions in how you see him. If you view him as a finished product, this is not a guy. This is not a appealing prospect. If you think that there's a lot here to still mold, I guess that's where like that you say, okay, he's young. He's one of the youngest quarterbacks in the draft, even though he's played a good bit in college. It was because he reclassified, so he's really playing at Texas as a quote unquote true freshman would be. But that to me is such an important point that you hit on that I just wanted to call out because I do think that like depending on how you view him, if you view him as this like long term project, then that's I think where you start to see okay maybe this could work eventually.
And that probably gives away some of my later like overall evaluations of him because I think that he a lot at Texas.
Yeah.
He didn't really play at Ohio State. He got on the field for like 2 snaps and threw like 1 pass or whatever, and then he transferred. Um, but he played a lot at Texas, and I think that the Quinn Ewers we saw early on was really similar to the Quinn Ewers we saw last year. And I think that's one of the reasons. This is going back to something you said earlier, and this is a real red flag to me. By the end of the year, Texas kind of figured out that like this is not going to be the guy to elevate us to that next level to win us the championship. We are hoping that Arch Manning is that guy. But Ewers still had eligibility and could still come back if he wanted to. And he toyed with the idea and basically was like, nah, we're good. We're going to roll with Arch.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, maybe I'll transfer. And then he was like, actually, I'm going to declare for the draft. That is really concerning. That tells me that other teams also are thinking, we've seen enough. We're going to go with other options.
Yeah,
and
which that part is bizarre because apparently
Yeah.
Carson Beck got paid $4 million to play quarterback at
Crazy.
Miami, which is like, if he's getting that, how is Ewers not finding somewhere that works
Yeah.
for him? Maybe
Especially
it kind of sounds like he was just ready, like he just wanted to go to the NFL. Like I have to believe that's what it is because you think about, like we just talked about it with Gabriel. Like they had the same thing. They had the air ready. They were done at Oklahoma. They were like, you can go play somewhere else. Like, and ends up having a really good year. I think Ewers, if he like actually figured some of this stuff out and had a really good year next year, I think he would have had a legit chance to boost his draft stock by multiple rounds.
Yeah, I think so because I think there are going to be teams that probably don't want anything to do with Quinn Ewers, which I'm probably over projecting a little bit based on my own personal feelings here, but I think that there are a lot of other quarterbacks that teams would rather bet on with less experience, better tools, whatever or better tape overall, whatever the circumstances are. I know we got a little bit sidetracked there, but I thought that was kind of relevant to bring up because that's really concerning for me in his evaluation.
Yeah. Getting a couple other notes out on the processing piece, like I think weird defensive looks really bother him. Like when teams started to throw more complex stuff at him, I thought that's like the Georgia game was an example. Like they couldn't block Georgia, so that was not Quinn Ewers' fault. But when they had a bunch of guys around the line of scrimmage, that kind of stuff, you started to see like, okay, this is a little more panicky than I would like to see. I also thought he did not love contact, which as a runner was good. Like, yeah, don't take stupid hits, but I thought even in the pocket he shied away from contact a little bit more than I would like to see for a guy that's not super mobile. Anything else you want to add on the processing before we get to the throwing?
Yeah, I'll say I also thought he was a little bit slow in that as well. It's like it took him a minute to look through reads to finally look at a guy and say like, okay, he's open.
Yeah.
And then he was slow pulling the trigger sometimes too. He's staring at a receiver who's open, and then he's like, okay, yeah, I should definitely throw this. And then he would throw it. And that's another thing that like if you're going to be an uber efficient quarterback in like this really quarter friendly system, you need to be operating a little more quickly, I think. And I don't think he did that very often.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get to the throwing. I think there's a lot here with him in terms of like discussion points. So let's just start with like the positives. Like let's just limit ourselves to that first. What do you see from him as as the plus things in his throw? Is there anything you want to throw in here for the positive?
Man, I really did not like him as a passer.
Maybe I should take this part then.
Yeah, you might want to take and this maybe goes back to processing, but I thought he took care of the ball pretty well.
Yeah,
he didn't put it in harm's way, but that doesn't really reflect his ability as a passer. So
yeah,
you might.
No, I do think like, and he did a good job. Like part of this goes back to, and this is like the mechanic stuff. He's able to get to his checkdowns, I thought, fairly well. Yeah. He loves throwing with his feet pointed in like the opposite direction of where he is throwing the ball. And that goes for like normal throws in the pocket. I thought he was just like trying trick shots on half his checkdowns where it's like could I see if I can throw this with my shoulders facing the opposite direction and then just throw like my arm across my body and see if I can get through there. But it works a decent amount of the time and he gets it out
Yeah.
there pretty quick. So I thought he was
Well,
good at
and
that. Go ahead.
I'll add to that. I think that he loved having Gunnar Helms, and Gunnar Helms probably boosted his draft stock a lot this year because of how much Quinn Ewers was like, that guy is open even if he's not, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw it to him. But
I
it
and
worked
that's
out
actually a piece that
usually
I
because
thought
Gunnar
he
Helms was
did a good job
there.
with is I thought he attacked tight windows pretty well. Like you see
Yeah.
him rip throws into windows that like a lot of quarterbacks would not feel comfortable attempting. And I think he shows good touch in that. And the last thing I would say on from a throwing perspective is I think he is a skilled thrower. Like you see, and this to me is why like he is being talked about still as like a mid like a day two guy for some people. A lot of people like fourth round
Yeah.
type of guy is because he does have throws that most other guys just don't ever have the like or don't ever have the skill to attempt. And when you pair that with the 5-star pedigree, then you can easily talk yourself into like, okay, if we can clean the other stuff up and you've got those like base high level skills, can we turn this into a good NFL starting quarterback? And I can't say that the answer is for sure no, but
Yeah.
there are enough things that we can get into now with the negatives that I am much more pessimistic on that happening. So now let me hand this part over to you. What are some of the concerns you have with the throwing?
I think my biggest concerns were how inconsistent he was, and I think this probably does go back to mechanics a lot, like you were talking about. I thought his deep balls were all over the
Oh,
place.
dude, it's the worst that I have watched. Like I don't know if there's a guy I remember that was worse in
I was
terms
trying to
of
find good ones anywhere because like I think you could go through any prospect. They like I missed that one, but there is this throw that I hang my hat on that like he's got it in him. I was looking for it and I couldn't find it in Quinn Ewers, and I was like, where is the throw that I'm supposed to look at and say like that's your NFL quarterback?
yeah.
And it showed up most on deep throws. I thought also over the middle, he was really he was missing behind a lot. He was not consistent on those. Pretty much any throw that he did have some times where he ripped some into some tight windows here and there, but I thought overall, just as a passer, most of his stuff was just not good. Like placement's not good. Like he's underthrowing things and gets bailed out by receiver talent, or he just misses completely.
I had heard people say a lot like the deep throwing was bad. So I was like kind of prepared for it, but it was like it was outrageous. Like the amount of like complete misses, like just
Yeah.
5 yards off target, and it was all over the place. It was some of them were overthrown, some of them were like side to side misses, some of them were underthrown. Like yeah, I don't know. Like I would feel like unless you have like the best quarterback coach in the NFL who is gonna just like completely rework the mechanics, like I don't know if that's something I want to touch because if the selling point for this guy is like the arm talent and the ability to like throw in creative ways, and once it's past 20 yards down the field, he can't do it, then like what are we really talking about?
What is the point? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that goes back to the footwork. It is, and this is something I had heard for like 2 or 3 years now. So like I wasn't surprised when I saw it, but it's completely all over the place and it's
Hmm.
inconsistent. It's bad on deep balls. It's bad on short throws. It's like I don't know if maybe it's just like the Mahomes kind of like I want to show people that I can throw with all these different arm angles types of things, but I think he's lazy with his feet sometimes and just does not like he has the opportunity to set his feet or create a little bit of a window and just doesn't. Um, and yeah, he's just not a very accurate thrower, and I think all those things feed
Yeah.
into it. But I I'm like you said, I'm not sure why I'm supposed to project that this stuff gets fixed. Like I don't see the tape
Yeah.
that tells me like, oh yeah, like he's bad at this now, but it's supposed to all get better. So yeah,
And
I don't know.
and the guys with elite arm talent, which I don't even think Quinn Ewers has elite arm talent. I don't even think his arm talent is like good. I think it's passable at best.
Yeah.
the guys with really good arm talent, they flash it. They'll be really, really bad, and even sometimes with bad mechanics, they'll flash it and make an incredible throw. That you're like, okay, well, there's something in here, and that's kind of what I was referring to. Like, I never saw that with Ewers watching him. That like, even with bad mechanics, even with everything going on around him, he just made an incredible throw. That you're like, okay, I could fix this.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we get into the clips?
No.
All right. Let's get it going. So I pulled the Michigan game for this. I think this is a more generous game in terms of viewers. This was early in the year. This was when we thought Michigan was good, and they ended up not being very good. But Ewers had
and still beat Alabama. But
yeah, Ewers had an impressive game against Michigan, and I do think this is one of the games where you see some of the things he does best more frequently on his tape, but you still see some of the misses as well. So this to me, I remember this play. Like I remember watching this play live early in the year. This is one of the plays where, again, like you talked about the relationship he has with his tight ends. We got play action here, and he's not going to have anything he loves initially. I mean, perhaps just throw the out route, but like whatever. He's reading out this side of the field. It is what it is. He does a really good job here of stepping up in a crowded pocket and then buying a little bit of time to get this ball to Helm and making an accurate throw in an awkward position. You can see here, like, Michigan gets pressure. The pocket's collapsing. He steps up, drops a little sidearm throw in. It's not the tightest window, but these are the types of plays that you see from him where it's like, okay, he's doing things that some guys would struggle with. Like, he escapes the pocket well. He sees the window. He's able to, throw with a little bit of a weird arm angle to get the ball there while he's running straight ahead. That's where you can start to say, okay, like, I see why people would be intrigued with this guy.
Yeah, and throwing down the seam is always going to be a plus. Throwing over the middle of the field is always going to be one of the most valuable areas in the NFL. So, if you can do it, then you're probably going to be successful.
Yeah. All right. One of the biggest concerns that I have with Ewers is I'm just not sure he's a great processor.
Yeah.
This is an example of one of those plays where it just feels like to me as he's reading this out, and I'm not saying there's some great option available here. I think, potentially you could try to bomb this deep if you love it.
You have a great arm.
Yeah, whatever. He's not hitting that throw, so I don't even. There's no way. So whatever. But he does not. I just don't think he processes here that his running back is about to get blown up.
Yeah.
Maybe, and this pocket is fairly clean. Like, it's possible you could wait out this dig route, whatever, but this has no chance. I mean, the corner hits the receiver before the ball even gets to the receiver. Like, it's just not there. I think sometimes this is what I go back to with some of the predetermined stuff. Like, you can kind of just see it on tape sometimes. Excuse me. Sometimes where I think he just kind of hopes I hope the check down's open now. Like, I don't really like anything else in this progression.
Yeah. And this is what I was saying when I said Sarkisian is kind of a wizard. And I miss him a lot as Alabama's offensive coordinator, because he knows the buttons to dial that even a quarterback who, I agree, I don't think he's a very good processor, is still going to have a lot of success and lead you to a lot of wins.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. That Sark year in 2020 was my freshman year, and that was insane. Just such good football.
Best Alabama team of all time.
Yeah, that was a pretty good start. If only I could have gone to more than one game that year. Yeah.
I didn't get to go in that year.
Another thing with Ewers, and this goes back to I just don't think he loves getting hit and playing through contact here. You see, as soon as things get ugly, he's just gonna throw it. And there you see, if he just takes a beat there, this is such an easy throw. But because pressure's there, he kind of panics. He just chucks it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's an incomplete pass. And this is a play like if Helm gets out here and makes this block, which he might, this is a ton of room. Like this could have been an explosive play. Instead, just an incomplete pass.
Incomplete. Yeah.
All right. This one, let's just watch the footwork here. This is a little like they're sending the running back out here, kind of leaking him out in the flat, and I think it's one of those plays like if the edge commits to Ewers, it's an easy throw. But either way, you've got the speed to get this guy out, but you're gonna have to work around this player, right? Like he's this. I think this defender does a good job here. He understands what's happening and really tries to close off this angle as quickly as possible. And just watch the way Ewers throws this ball. He just like stops and then just like flings it. There's like
no chance.
There's a lot of things you could try here. This is like the last thing I would like to see because it's kind of, I don't know, it just feels lazy to me. It's like, oh, I'll just stop and kind of like fling it and hope that it gets there. There's guys that like Tyler Shuck would make this throw. Tyler Shuck would make this little sidearm play. Other guys would put in enough effort to create the angle where they can just kind of throw it on the run. Ewers does neither, right? And this is where you start to see, okay, like if he's going to play this way, he has to be good at playing this way. And I don't see that enough.
And this is a play where, if you have the more athletic quarterbacks like a Jalen Milroe, like a Cam Ward, they're gonna juke the defender.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna look to take off or look for a different receiver downfield. And I don't think Ewers has that in him where, when he's got somebody in his face, he's looking to get rid of it. He's not looking to create.
Yeah. All right, last one. This is just an example of the touch that he has. You see here, like he's getting pressured pretty quickly, still diagnoses this, and immediately makes a great throw over the middle of the field. Like these are the plays with him that I think is where you see him at his best. You see again from the end zone angle, steps up, flicks this ball over the defender. Like there are very few players that can make that throw in college football. That is very
falling
difficult.
Away.
Yeah, exactly. Like the fadeaway, that is a really impressive throw. Yeah. There's enough other stuff on the tape where I think some of it balances out, but those types of plays are very impressive.
Yeah, I agree. That is a really tough throw, and he does it really well there. I think it still kind of draws on some of the same tendencies that he has that lead to a lot of his bad plays.
Yes.
Where Tyler Shuck, to compare them, as you did a minute ago, Tyler Shuck probably is falling away and making the same throw, but we saw him do that a lot more consistently. That I'm less concerned that he's going to struggle with that in the NFL. Yeah. But Quinn Ewers, I think these are a lot fewer and farther between. That it's a big concern.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. All right, let's get into the comps. I struggled with a best case like a lot for this because I don't like Ewers as a prospect, but there is enough upside where I can't just pick like some mid late round guy, because when you watch him, like the flashes are what you have to believe in if you're buying into him. So I ended up going with Drew Lock as a guy that was just a very talented thrower, but never really consistent enough to have real success at the NFL level. But if you watched him on his best game, you would think like, oh, this guy, like he for sure should be a starter in the league, but it's just never consistent enough. There's too many mistakes. Where this falls apart is Locke had a cannon and Ewers does not. Ewers is probably maybe a little more creative with some of his throwing, but in terms of best case, like that's kind of what I see, which is like, most people, I think most people think Ewers has much more upside than Drew Lock, but that kind of shows you, like, I think where we both are with Ewers.
And I think that the people who think that he has more upside are probably basing it on like just his success level in college and kind of removing all the other factors that led him to that level of success. I will say I really struggle with best case comps for the same reason. I don't think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I definitely helmet scouting here, but I put Colt McCoy because
That
Colt
was one of the
McCoy's
ones I
another
thought
that,
about. Yeah.
yeah, he had like limited tools, was successful, not the most accurate guy, made some good throws every now and then, and ultimately led Texas to, you know, a national championship appearance. I think Ewers did a lot of the same things and has some of the same limitations and will probably be the same level of quarterback. Although I could see Ewers sticking around for a long time like Colt McCoy did.
Yeah.
Colt McCoy, I couldn't even tell you how long he was in the NFL, but he he was playing games just a couple of years ago. Like that's wild. He was
Yeah.
not really a very good quarterback. But I could see Ewers doing the same thing, for the same reason. He has he has a good enough arm, and I think that he will probably, has enough talent just to like scrape by.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good one. That was another one I thought about. I feel like he is somewhere in between Locke and McCoy in terms of physical ability. So I
Yeah,
think those are kind of like good frame of reference points. But
yeah.
yeah, in terms of worst case, again, like worst case to me
I
is he's out of the league in 2 years. I
Yeah.
put Will Greer as a guy that I thought of
Okay.
for him as just like you you see some of the flashes throwing, but the physical ability is not what you would hope for from a guy that shows some of those flashes. I think Greer was a better deep ball thrower in college than Ewers is, which everybody is, but Ewers probably shows more of like the Ewers is definitely a more physically talented player
Yeah.
than Greer. But in terms of like the way they played in college and their throwing style, yeah, something about that stood out to me. So that was my worst case. I mean, it's a guy that doesn't play. Like that's the real like what I'm
Yeah.
shooting for here.
Well, I put worst case comp, not an NFL player,
Yeah,
which I think is more. That might be unrealistic because I think he probably does stick as a backup at least for a little while. But I think there is a realistic chance that Ewers is out of the league in 3 years because I don't think he is accurate enough.
yeah. I really think he should have gone back to school, man. Like there's
He should have.
because he didn't get better from 2 years ago to this year,
No.
and he still is going to get drafted. Is it really going to be that different if he doesn't get any better again? Like I still think he probably goes like relatively similarly in terms of the draft. Like he's probably not going to fall all the way out of the draft. He's probably not going to go second, third round. Um, if he
I
cleans some
think
of
he
that
should have.
stuff up, I genuinely think he would have gone. He would go like 3 rounds higher.
Yeah. And I think that he should have gone back just to get paid because
Yeah,
there's a real chance he's not going to get paid at the NFL level.
yeah, and who
Of
knows like
course, if
where
he
the
sticks
money
as a
was at?
backup,
But if it
he
was
might make some money.
anywhere close to what Beck got,
Yeah.
I think that is leaving money on the table for sure.
Well, and I think that I mean, look at what I shouldn't say this too forcefully, but uh, with Tennessee and the Nico Iamaleava stuff, he didn't get paid when he transferred. He ended up losing money in that deal, but like there were openings at schools that would have loved to take somebody
Yeah,
like Quinn Ewers. And actually, if he had, which we didn't even know Tennessee was going to need a starting quarterback when he was making his decision. But if he'd ended up at Tennessee playing for Heupel, he probably would have put up great numbers. He may have cleaned up some of this stuff. I don't know. Tennessee is a fake offense.
yeah, that would have been
Um,
awful. I
I don't think it would have helped us know what he's going to be in the NFL, but
yeah,
he could have made some money doing that,
like
I
North
think.
Carolina get some real coaching. Like
Yeah,
that would have been fun.
yeah, exactly. But
Okay,
I,
I have a 6 round grade on yours.
yeah,
I can't I can't put him lower just because they're like there are flashes like that throw the last throw we watched. It's like that's rare, right? Like he does have some stuff that's rare. Everything
yeah,
else
that's
I
fair.
just don't think is NFL level at this point. So I think this is the lowest I can put a guy that has a potential outcome where he is a starting NFL quarterback, but my belief in that is so low.
Yeah, that I think that is fair. And I will say, the last couple of years, you have watched quarterbacks than me. So what I'm going to say is maybe a little bit crazy, but he is the worst quarterback that I have watched in the last like 3 years. Um, I have him off my board completely. Like I would not draft Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Um, I'd rather take a chance on a Dylan Gabriel because I think he can at least be a solid backup, and I really don't even see a path to that for Quinn Ewers. Um, yeah, I did not like him at all.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've
I
given that
really don't
away.
feel like I'm that far from you because like he's not going to go in the 6th round. So like
Yeah,
it's yeah I really can't argue too much with it. I watched Stetson Bennett, so there's no way he's the worst quarterback I've ever watched. But but yeah, like it was bad. Like he is right now. Him and Curtis Rourke right now are my two lowest for this cycle. I have Ewers, Gabriel, and Rourke all with like 6th round grades. I will have to, I'll probably go back through after I finish watching everybody and see if there's anything I want to move around. But yeah, it's definitely down there. A few years ago I watched way too many guys, so I was watching guys that like ended up being UDFA's, like stuff like that. So
we're never gonna.
There's some guys like that were certainly worse. But yeah, of like the guys, this is I think the worst guy I've watched that people talk about is a guy that might go in like the 3rd round. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think we lost John there, so I will wrap up. Oh, no,
Lost me for a second.
He's back. Okay, last thing, I guess. Any like team fits? I don't like. I don't know.
The Cowboys.
Yeah, honestly, I saw that the other day
in
in an article. Like,
No.
might as well, dude. Like, I don't know what the scheme
the
fit
Cowboys,
is
but-
here. Like, I don't know. I don't think I like him as a prospect to really be fair and like figuring out a good landing spot for him. So Jerry Jones, why not?
I don't think that there is a real like team fit. I think it's just whoever thinks that his tools are pretty good and can make something out of him.
I agree. It's way more of a development thing than
Yeah.
it is a like what does he fit in.
Yeah.
It is like, do you have a quarterback coach that looks at the footwork and thinks I can fix that? And if you have
If I clean that up, he's
if your staff is like all in on this and like thinks you can do it, I'm completely open to him being like a 4th, 5th round pick at that point. But that's what it comes down to for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's where like that is truly a difference of opinion, because like if a staff felt that way, obviously, they're going to take him 4th, 5th round. And on my end, I'd be like, there's no way I'm touching that because I don't think I would. He hasn't changed in 2 years. Why would I be able to do anything?
With Sark, with
Sark, yeah.
Like, did you see what Mac Jones did in terms of like? I mean, he was a machine when he was leaving Alabama. Like it was so clean. Probably deceived people with it was so clean in the way that he played.
It like carried over a little bit into his rookie year,
Yeah.
and then not anything after that.
Well, and that's like the Patriots after that, like just
that's so sad.
failed him. But yeah, that's the thing. When you come from this background, when you were the guy that was the number 1 recruit, when you went to Ohio State and learned under CJ Stroud for a year, when you go to Texas and learn under Sark, it's been long enough at this point. Like we should see it. All right. Anything else you want to add before we wrap?
No, I think that's it.
All right. I'm glad this isn't the last one we're doing. I'm glad we have a couple more left because this is definitely a sour note to conclude. So I'm glad.
We'll end on a little more positive of a note.
Maybe McCord or Howard will like a little bit more. This is definitely one of the more disappointing. Like this and Dart are definitely. I know you like to Dart more. This and Dart for me are like the 2 guys that I've been most disappointed with watching so far this cycle. So it'll be interesting to see how the last couple guys are as well. All right. Thanks, John, for doing another one of these. Thanks, everybody, as well, for listening. And hopefully we'll have a couple more of these out before the draft on Thursday. So stay tuned for a few more, and we'll catch you next time.